Okay, everybody, welcome to the latest episode of All Too Real 2. My name is Michael E. Cullen II, and with me, as always, is...
Sesame, Jeff, and Carta.
Alright, good name. Strong, manly name.
Oh, definitely, like Sesame, totally.
Yes.
And Carta, yeah.
Yes, totally. And Jeff?
Jeff is a sturdy name, yes.
Yes. So, today on the show, we're in our pilot error series of reviews here. We have a little interesting thing that we're looking at. There was a British television series called Coupling, which ran from May of 2000 till June of 2004 on the BBC. And during the last season of Friends on NBC, they needed to try to find a show to replace it. So instead of running the BBC version of the show, as you do, with examples that were done well, like The Office, you remake the show for an American audience.
Yeah.
And they wanted something that was kind of like grabbing that whole, Friends kind of feel. So they decided that they're going to take this show, which is a show about 3 men and 3 women, much like Friends, who live in the city, and about their, interpersonal lives and relationships and stuff like that. It was a little more risque than Friends.
Yeah.
Especially the BBC version as it went on and stuff, from what I've read. I've only seen a few episodes of the BBC version. So we decided to watch the pilot of the BBC version and the pilot of the NBC version, which are basically the same script. One's just Americanized slightly. And a few changes here and there, nothing major. Same characters, same plot, same setups, So the American version ran in 2003, while the other version was still on the air, for a total of 4 episodes. They made 13. In the United States, they ran 4 of them. Ironically, in Great Britain, they ran all 13.
Well, yeah.
Yeah. Of the American version.
Oh, they ran the American. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, the other one had more than 13 episodes. So.
Oh yeah.
So
yeah.
So. But yeah, ironically, and also while the American version was running on NBC, BBC America aired the counterpart version of the British version right after it on BBC America. So
Wow.
you could see the differences right away and similarities. So anyways, so this is a little different of a kind of review here, but so what's your initial thoughts of the British version? I'm just going to ask you that because we're going to focus more on the American version, but I just want to know what your thoughts on the British version were.
I liked it. That's all I have. No.
Yeah.
So, like an idiot. So you said, hey, watched the British version first, then the American version, and I forgot about that. So then I watched the American version first because it was on YouTube and it was easier to find because
Yeah,
I didn't have the freebie app yet on my Roku.
yeah.
So
Well, it should play with on Amazon Prime.
well, yes, what I forgot about that. So
Yeah,
then I reread the message, and then
yeah,
I'm like, oh, okay. So then I downloaded like a different freebie app, not the same one,
yeah,
um, freebie TV, which wasn't the right one. And then so then I kind of rewatched it in reverse order,
yeah.
which kind of sort of colored my
Impression.
interpretation of
Yeah,
it because American TV tends to be more like in your face, like just like like
yeah.
joke. Like they have to like shove it like in your face like a pie because a lot of it.
And at that time, it was laugh track on top of it too. Really,
Yeah,
really
and so
heavy laugh
British
track.
television,
Yeah,
yeah, so British television tends to be a little bit more highbrow, except for like Benny Hill and shows like that.
well,
But
yeah,
like, I think so like the humor is a little bit more dry, a little bit more sophisticated, kind of. So I kind of went from the like, joke into like the more subtle humor, which I still picked up on.
yeah,
And so like there's parts of the American version I liked a little bit better than the
yeah,
British just because I saw that one first, I guess. And then but over because the British one took a little bit time to kind of get moving a little bit. So once it kind of gained some momentum, I
it was
I
longer
kind of
too. That's the other
it
thing
was
too.
longer,
Yeah,
yeah. So I kind of like that one better. For one thing, the character I forgot her name. The character that the main guy, I forgot his name too, is trying to break up with. I liked her. I like the actress playing her better than the actress playing the American
yeah,
version, or at least the character,
yeah.
their
In the
personality.
British version, it's Gina Bellman, who people will know from the TV show Leverage and Leverage Redemption.
Oh,
In American audiences. So yeah, she plays Sophie Devereaux in there. But this is when she
yeah,
was really young. She looks a lot different in that. But yeah,
this is 2000, right? It was when the British one came out
yeah,
first,
like
right?
2000, 2001, somewhere around there. I can't remember what I just said like 5 minutes ago. But
Well, that's fine.
yeah,
Well, the American one came out in 2003, so
yeah.
I
So yeah, I
think the
think it was
British
2000. Yeah. Um, yeah, yeah, Gina Bellman. I mean, Lindsay Lindsay Price, who plays the role in the American version, is a good actress, and she was good in the role. But yeah, but I do think that the character's name is Jane. I do think
yeah.
Gina Bellman did a better job with the character. But yeah. Um. So yeah. Any other thoughts on the British version?
Just like I don't know, just overall, I thought it was a better um delivered episode because the
Yeah.
script is like you said, it's almost verbatim, except for like instead of saying the bathroom, they say the loo or something like that.
Yeah.
But like other than that, it was pretty much well, there was some crude language in the beginning of the British episode that they didn't really say in the American one.
Yeah.
But other than that, it was and I guess the character of Jeff maybe was um, a little bit more, I guess, geeky in the British one than the American version. I
Yeah.
guess a little. But
He seemed more like a pretty boy in the American version. You know
yeah,
the actor in the British version. Um, I'm looking up his name really quick. Yeah, tell me anything else you want while I look that up.
oh sure, uh, yeah, just I don't know, just in general, and I noticed too that like in um British shows tend, or at least they used to, tend to have less episodes than American seasons do. Like a lot
Yeah,
of British, like Faulty Towers, for example, a classic British show from the 70s. They only had about like 6 episodes in the first season, and then
yeah,
like they didn't have like season two until like 3 or 4 years later or something like that. And then that was also only like a few episodes. But like these are still like viewed as classics and like watched like still to this day by people. Whereas like a typical American sitcom at that for a long time was usually close to like 23 or 25 episodes per season. now it seems like a lot of shows are kind of dwindling down the number of
Well, a
episodes.
lot of it has to do with streaming and
Yeah,
cable TV. You know, there's less episodes per season on those things now, which
yeah,
makes it better because things kind of, I don't know, are more concise and you basically are getting to the point faster than like when you have like, you know, like you said, like 20 episodes or more. You're kind of letting it breathe a little more. Sometimes it's good, but sometimes you're just kind of spinning your wheels per episode, you know?
yeah,
Um,
exactly. Filler stuff
yeah,
like or a bottle episode, or maybe not a bottle, a clip episode or whatever.
yeah.
Like a
Yeah, they don't do those as much as they used to. But like
no,
back in the 80s they did those all the time, you know.
yeah.
One of my favorite SNL sketches from the 80s was there was a thing where they had it was a Family Ties sketch where they're in the they're in the kitchen and they're remembering a time when they remembered something else, and then they are remembering in that clip when they remembered something else, and it just keeps going on. It's like a clip show of clip shows. It's like pretty funny. But
Wow.
anyways, Jeff is played by Richard Coyle in the original version, and he recently was in Fantastic Beasts: Secrets of Dumbledore
Oh,
as Aberforth or Aberforth, however you say that.
oh, okay.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, who the secrets were about, by the way, the Dumbledore they're actually talking about. No.
That movie was, yeah.
If you want to hear more about that, listen to our review of that movie.
Yeah,
It's
or
one of our better
was
reviews.
it was more of like a reaction more so than a
Yeah,
review, because of just like trying to decipher everything from that. It
but
was a movie. I'll give you that. It was
yes.
a film.
So you know, if you want to hear more of our views on that, listen to that episode. I highly recommend it. But back to coupling here. So my thoughts, I really loved. I watched the British version first. I was just randomly because I've been watching the TV show Leverage a lot lately, been re-binging it, and I watched the TV show Leverage Redemption, which I love, and I was looking up what else Gina Bellman had been in, and then I had always heard about this show Coupling, and I thought, oh, I heard that was pretty funny, so I watched the pilot of that. And then I noticed, I was looking up stuff on YouTube, and I noticed that the pilot of the American version was on there. So I was like, oh, I'll watch this, and then I did not realize that the pilot was going to be the same exact script
I know.
of the episode I had just watched. So,
Well, they
yeah.
did the same thing with the British version of that '70s show. It was pretty much
Oh
the
yeah,
same.
those were that. Yeah,
Uh,
yeah. We need to find those and cover that sometime.
yeah,
Um,
exactly. I thought
yeah.
that we were going to, and then we forgot or something.
Yeah,
Or
that we'll put that on our docket to do soon,
yeah.
especially with that '90s show coming out in a week or so, a couple weeks.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah, that's
yeah,
right.
maybe we should do that soon. Um, but yeah, the yeah, and like The Office, the pilot of The Office is almost identical to the BBC version of The Office. So yeah, um, so it's done, and you know the thing that The Office was smart about was was like deviating in certain ways from the original, you know. Whereas my feeling about the American version of coupling compared to the British version is that it's like it it's almost like if you like say you went and saw, you know, Hamilton on Broadway, okay?
Hmm. Yeah,
And then you remember when that church did that like version that they got in trouble for recently?
yeah,
It's like
yeah. I do
watching the
remember.
clips that I saw of that afterwards. So maybe not that bad. I'm sorry. No, it's
Wow.
it's maybe like watching like watching a professional play and then watching a you know, regional version of it or something. You know, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't,
Hmm.
and this didn't, in my opinion. I mean it may have worked in a different era when we didn't have internet or cable where you could see the BBC version. I know this was
Right.
still early days of the internet, but you still had the ability to um, see it, and I think the DVD version of the first season or two had just come out of the BBC version, so it was relatively available, and like I said, it was on BBC America, so you had that. And then BBC America was kind of saying "fuck you" to NBC and playing
Right.
the analog episodes right afterwards. So it's
You
like,
also had like satellite TV, which you could probably get some certain. Well,
yeah,
maybe I wouldn't go that far into
and
Britain, but
and people probably had been watching, because BBC America had been playing the BBC shows for a while, so I'm sure
right.
they had seen most of the episodes of the series, and
Yeah, it just it was just like I said before, it's like a lot of American TV, especially at that time period, it was just like joke, joke. Like they really had to like
yeah,
tell you it was a joke.
they had to
Like
tell you what was funny.
yeah, and it
I
was
mean, the
like
British
it's
version
just
I think had a laugh track, but it was not like in your face.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
just like because there was one line though I'll talk about later that actually did make me laugh out loud
Yeah,
pretty
and
hard.
I know what you're talking about because you talked to me earlier, and I thought it was funny too. So, all right, let's jump into the American version of the pilot, which is basically the British version of the pilot, story wise. So, like, what happens in this story?
Okay, so Jeff and what's the guy's name? The main dude? I forgot his name.
The main guy is Steve.
Oh yeah, so Steve is telling um Jeff that, or well, Jeff is actually asking Steve if he had finally broken up with Jane because apparently he had tried to break up with her for like 4 times, and she always quote tricks him into having sex, and he elaborated and said that she suggested it, so it's not really tricking, but okay. And then Jeff is like basically playing the role of like the ever faithful, best friend or whatever. Like, oh, that's evil or maniacal. Is like, is it though? Because I mean, she just suggested it. You didn't have to have sex with her, but whatever. And then, so he's going to uh break up with her for real this time at some like coffee shop or whatever. And what's interesting, again, just the same situation played out in the British original, is that they show two girlfriends talking about how the one's gonna break up with her boyfriend, and so you're led to believe that they're talking about each other, but instead they're like talking about two completely different people. So uh, the woman's boyfriend is like standing right behind um, Steve, and she calls, I forgot his name, was it Tim or something like that, or I forgot his
It's
name, but
Patrick.
yeah, Patrick. So Patrick is standing right behind Steve, and then she calls him over, and then like, oh, I get it. She's talking about this Patrick dude, and then
Yeah.
Jane is like sitting off at a table, like in a kind of like in the corner, and it's like, oh, okay, that was kind of a neat little trick. And again, that's the Americans didn't come up with that. That was exactly how it
No,
played out.
and it was done better in the British. I'm
Yeah,
gonna say
it
that a
was.
lot,
Yeah,
but
it was very much so. But it was interesting because they literally had her sitting like in the same exact corner as well, like
yeah,
table.
the sets were pretty similar. I mean, in a way, but
They're very
like
similar. Yeah.
obviously the American ones felt more sitcom-y. Like the set in the
Yeah.
British one almost seemed real, like a real location, but you know.
Well, the yeah, the American one seemed like it was like a bar slash club, whereas the
Yeah.
British it was a coffee shop, but
Hmm.
whatever, which is more intimate. Which again goes back to my theory of you don't need like flashing lights and everything noise to make everything seem whatever. Anyway, so
Oh, what'd you say? I'm sorry, I was just distracted by some flashing lights.
no problem.
Oh, joking.
Actually, I don't even remember now if it was a club. I don't
No,
whatever. I know it had to be
it was kind of just it was a bar that was kind of like
it
a
was a
bar,
bar. Yeah.
but like, but like the main thing is, it's like the the American version, it just felt like a set,
Yeah, it did.
but like
It was
the the British version felt like a real location, like it was like a real bar.
and yeah, so basically,
Hmm.
yeah, Steve is is trying to break up with her again. He actually gets the words out this time, and then she's like, "Oh well, I don't accept that," and it's like, "Well, what? You can't just like not accept something. I mean, it's it's done, you know." And she's like, "No, blah blah blah, whatever," and then he gets up to leave, and then she says something like, "Oh well, I just have this like special, physical connection with you that I haven't really had with anyone else." Then she just name drops some woman's name, and for some reason, this was like a weird thing back in the day. I remember where like there was like some weird trope that like if a woman was bisexual, that automatically made her like lecherous, which I guess is like a
Yeah,
prejudice
it's
type.
it's
Like,
it's very it's very
uh,
it's very dated. Yeah.
yeah, very very dated because it's like so. What you're saying is if someone's bisexual, that automatically makes them like hypersexualized, like just by like a
I mean,
law, basically.
it just means it's really basically almost implying that they're a slut.
Yeah, it is because hypersexualized. It's like, oh, you're bisexual, so that automatic, and so like that's like
Hmm.
brought him back, as like a tractor beam, basically. And he's like, wait, what did you mention? Blah blah blah. And then that Jeff like storms in and he's trying to like like grab him, like, oh, did you do it or whatever? And then he's like, oh, I was this close. Blah blah blah.
I mean, that's the
You know,
one thing I really don't get is okay. Like, back to this bisexual thing. Like, if you're dating somebody and you find out, oh, she had relations with people in the past, whether it be man or woman, I really don't want to hear about it.
well, he was under the impression, and just like the British version too,
Yeah,
because I guess the culture was the
it
same
was
in that
same over there
regard,
too. Yeah,
was that, oh well, if she was intimate with a woman, that automatically means that she's gonna want to invite another woman in bed with them.
yeah,
I guess is
that's what I'm saying. But it's
implication.
just like
Yeah,
it's just weird.
it is
Yeah,
weird because by that logic, if she had mentioned that she dated another guy before, would he then automatically assume that she's just
yeah,
gonna invite?
and plus in
Yeah,
both in both versions, she just says that she's wanting to tell him about her past, not
yeah,
that anything.
exactly.
Like I wouldn't want to hear about that.
But that's yeah, exactly. It's a good point. It's the weird thing about it. It's like
Yeah.
I begged you to tell me.
Hmm.
So you just want to like live vicariously
Yeah.
through her past relationship with another woman. Like that's almost weirder
Hmm.
than like actually just wanting to invite another person
Yeah.
with them in bed
And there's
because
nothing wrong with any of that, but I'm just
you're
saying it's
like
just weird.
vicariously like it's just
Hmm.
weird. I don't know. Like just tell me about it. Like I don't want to actually do it. Just tell me. Okay, weird. But whatever. And then um and so like they start making out in the bathroom or whatever. And then she asked him if he has another interesting thing. So this is the difference between Americans and British culturally. So in the American version, she asked him if he has a condom, and he says no. And then so she calls trying to call Jeff to ask him if he can bring him a condom. And then that's when
Susan.
I forgot Susan walks in and she's like, "Hey, isn't this the ladies' room?" And he's like, "Oh, I must have read it wrong or whatever." And some like joke about like I thought that was a not a skirt, but like I forgot what he said. And then somehow Jane can't overhear them talking when they're like 2 feet away from the bathroom stall, which I thought okay was weird. And then
Yeah,
like have
considering, not to, break the illusion that I never use the restroom. Um that our fans probably have. I was sitting in, a public restroom the other day in the stall and I could hear this father and son talking to each other in the restroom.
no,
Clear as
it
day.
doesn't happen.
Yep. So
You have the door shut, it seals off all sound, and
okay.
then you can't hear anything. Yeah. And then so he's like trying to like she's kind of like basically said that she kind of wanted to flirt with him at like some office party, because Jeff and her work in the same office, and but since he was seeing someone else, she didn't flirt with them. So then he's like, "Oh well, I'm single, sort of, or whatever, kind of thing." And then I guess at that point, Jane comes out or what? I don't remember exactly. No, she doesn't come out at all because again, she can't hear anything because she's in the bathroom stall. So as a rule, you can't hear anything. But so Jeff this line actually did make me kind of laugh out loud. So
Yeah.
Jeff has like an old condom that he's had since like college. So he's like, okay, this is not gonna work or whatever. And then he just walks up to Patrick and I forgot what's her name. Susan's friend. Do you remember her name?
Oh, the friend is named Sally.
So he walks up to Sally and Patrick, and he's mainly talking to Patrick. And he's just standing there and goes, "Hi, my name is Jeff. Do you have a condom?"
Yeah.
And Patrick just gives him one.
And
then
I
he's
do
like,
think it was funny, like then Sally asks Patrick, "Do you know him?" And he's like, "No." And it's like, but it's like, do you know what he's gonna do with that? And it's like, I don't know him, but I'm pretty sure I know what he's gonna do. He needs that for or whatever. So.
He just gives him a condom. He's like, "Hey, I got a condom, whatever."
Yeah.
And then so
Mm-hmm.
Jeff, I think, walks in or whatever, gets it. But the difference is, so in the British version, that whole scene doesn't play out that way because they already had condoms, I guess, in the bathroom
Yeah, like a
already
machine. Yeah.
because British culture actually cares about contraception and
Yeah.
doesn't actually
I mean,
distinctly
some American bathrooms do have those, but
well, yeah,
it
but I
wasn't
guess
like overtly common, and it still isn't. So
yeah, especially nowadays because the government wants to ban contraception or whatever. But like anyway, so
yeah,
but that's no matter. But I mean, it is very matter actually. But so that whole scene was just completely scrapped because there was no need
well,
for
yeah,
that, which unfortunately kind of sucked because that was actually a funny line that was probably the only thing in the American version that actually made me like
that was
actually laugh.
funnier than the British. Yeah,
Yeah, or actually made me laugh out loud as opposed to just like, oh, that was kind of neat. Yeah, okay, whatever.
yeah,
Let's move along here. Awesome too. So at one point they're playing the video. Jeff and Steve are playing the video game at one of their apartments. But the British version, the video game looks so much cooler than the American
yeah.
video game I played.
Because I think it
I
was a
don't know
real
what
video game as opposed to I think on the American version it was some generic.
it was. Just some
Yeah,
plus we're thinking of like the year
mm-hmm.
2000. These graphics look pretty good for the year 2000.
Yeah,
So maybe they had British games that did not come out in the States or whatever. But and then they're basically just talking about the same shit like, oh well, I'm really gonna break up with her next time, blah blah blah. So then it goes into Jeff and Susan are talking.
at
Well, no, so Jeff actually told Steve that him and Susan almost hooked up like a long time ago at like an office party, but they didn't really do anything.
but that
And then
she got nervous.
that's what he said, that
Yeah,
she got nervous and that he like so then they didn't do anything.
and they worked together, so we cut to their office.
Yeah.
And then yeah, they're talking, and it's revealed that they're good friends and that they're porn buddies, which means that when if one of them were to die, they would go into the other one's house and take out their porn before their parents could see.
Yep.
And then keep it, of course.
Well, of course, because she's like, "What, you destroy?" It's like, I said removed.
Yeah.
Didn't say destroy. Like, what, you keep it? It's like, well, yeah, because that way you have a whole different set of porn that you didn't have or whatever.
Yeah. And it's like I can't remember which version because I saw them both and they're so similar. But like
Yeah, I know.
Jeff says something about like then it's like you're sad that your buddy died, but you also are kind of happy.
You got like it's like a yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah, it's interesting.
I do
right?
want to mention before we continue with the plot here a little bit. I'm just some Stephen Moffat created Coupling, the British version, and helped develop it for the American audience. And he, for years, was he from 2005 till 2021, he was like the showrunner and head writer for Doctor Who.
Oh, cool.
He also created or was a writer on, I don't know if he's the creator, let me see here. I'll look it up really quick. He was one of the creators of the BBC Sherlock as well. So So yeah, he's got a really good television pedigree. So
Yeah,
yes. Mhm.
I I want to go watch like the whole Doctor Who series from like the beginning to like current because I never really got into it, but for some reason I've been
Mhm.
watching Farscape recently, and then that got me into the idea of wanting to watch Doctor Who. So
Yeah,
so
makes
that's
sense.
pretty cool.
Yeah, so back to the plot here. Sorry for the divergence there. Um
That's fine.
we had Jeff, and we learn when Jeff and Susan are talking that it wasn't Jeff. I mean, it wasn't Susan who was nervous. It was Jeff who was nervous and couldn't, go through with sex with her, or whatever you want to call it. Um, and so that thing people do.
Yeah, the
Um,
thing.
yeah. So he's so while they're talking, Steve calls
Hmm.
and sets up a date with Susan, but Jeff's all worried like about it because he doesn't want them talking about each other because he doesn't want Steve to know that he got nervous, which whatever.
But that's a weird plot point. Why would he care that much about
Yeah,
whether
well, he's probably
yeah,
just
whatever.
worried about his reputation and stuff. I don't know.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Well.
but so we have that happen, and then is that when we then have the date finally?
Yeah, where he's gonna try to break up. No, sorry, he doesn't.
No,
Yeah, Jane
no.
shows up. That's right.
Yeah,
Yeah,
he
and
he, go, he, go, he goes on to meet Susan for their date at this restaurant, and Jeff basically stalks him and follows him there. And then speaking of stalking, Jane
then
followed them there, and before he had actually left a voicemail. Forgot about this. Did we talk about this? No.
oh no, I forgot about
Yeah, he,
that.
he left
Yeah.
a voicemail on Jane's phone that cut off when he was trying to break up with her on the phone. Talked about how great of a person and everything she was, and basically made it sound like he was in love with her. And then the thing cut off. So
Yeah, because he goes like, uh, and you won't be crazy not to want to spend the rest of their life with you. And that's when the
yeah, and then
uh,
it cut off.
the mailbox was full.
And so we have that happen, and so she thinks that they're still together, obviously, and because I guess in 2003 you couldn't call back and finish your message.
No, apparently not.
Yeah.
Which I'm sure is not true. I think you could. I think you could delete your message and redo it, but
Yeah, or finish it in another message. Um, the,
yeah.
so it so Steve goes to meet her. Jeff's with him, and then Jane shows up. By the way, Steve is played by an actor named Jay Harrington. Um, Jeff is played by Christopher Moynihan. Um, Susan is played by Rena Sofer. We have Jane is played by Lindsay Price. Patrick is played by Colin Ferguson, and Sonia Walger is Sally. So okay, that's our cast. Just you
Mhm.
know. Anyways, we've got it where shows up. Jane shows up, and he's like, "Oh shit!" She basically followed him there. Find out that she called. He wasn't home. Called around, found out where he was, and or well, found out he went out to dinner. Called every restaurant in town until she found out which one he had reservations at. Like you do.
You know, like you do, yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's how I do it. That's the only way I can ever hang out with people. Yeah, it's very awkward all the time. I don't know why.
I call every restaurant or movie theater or whatever.
Yeah,
Like, oh, I finally found him. Good.
yeah. I've only seen like half of most movies because I show up halfway through. And a lot of times I'm in the middle of a dinner. I don't know what, but anyway. So
Yeah.
but she shows up. He's freaking out, and um, then Susan walks in and sees that Jeff's there, and then Jane introduces herself as Steve's girlfriend.
Hmm.
And then finds out that he's on a date, and then she finally breaks up with him.
Right.
Guess that's what it took.
Wait, what? No, I'm breaking up. And then also Sally and Patrick show up.
Yeah.
They
And that's another good line. I mean, from both versions, it's like she's like he Patrick says, "I can't believe you're taking a date to our restaurant." It's like, well,
right.
you took a date and my best you're on a date with my best friend at our
Right.
restaurant or whatever. So yeah, it's like you
Yeah.
win. Yeah. So turns out they end up realizing that it was Jeff who was the one that was nervous on the situation. It's all revealed, and they talk about how intimidating women are and blah blah blah.
Yeah, that
then
whole
then
thing.
then what happens?
Um so she basically wants Jeff to leave because he's like ruining the date or whatever, and then something like, well, what will it take, to me to beg or shoot you down or show you my breast or whatever, and then it becomes this whole thing of like,
Yeah,
oh, okay, yeah, the breast, and she's like, I was just joking, and then like everyone starts like standing like basically like near the, I don't know what you call it, the edge or the corner or whatever, so that they can get a look
yeah,
or whatever,
but
because they're like, well, we're actually in the corner, so technically nobody would see, and
yeah, and it was funny. Like they say, just like which one, and the
yeah,
only
well,
one.
that was the British one, I
Oh no,
think.
it
I
was
don't
in
know if
both.
oh, it was okay,
Yeah,
cool.
it's like which one, and then Patrick says he has a specific one he wants to see. I can't remember which it was more right or something. Yeah.
Wow.
He says one has to come in second place, and it was a little bit longer of a joke in the British version, but it
Yeah,
was in both. A little bit better in the British version.
yeah, yeah.
But yeah, anyways, so she shows, and then she's like, need a table for six. The waiter comes by and says, "Yeah, I'll be right on that." And then they all, realize that they're all kind of now friends, pun intended. Um,
Yeah, I get it. 'Cause,
yeah. hmm So they hang out, and then we've got our credits.
and
Um,
yeah, that's
and
it.
the theme song, by the way, was the song "Perhaps, Perhaps, Perhaps," which the best version of that song, by the way, is by Cake. If you ever want to look it up, like, anyways, so by the band Cake. Um, but in this version of the show, it was also the theme song of the British version, and Lindsay Price, actually, who plays Jane in this version, sang the theme song for this TV show. So
Cool.
yeah. So do you want to hear some trivia here?
Yeah.
Okay, so here's some trivia. Yeah. Following poor critical reception, NBC canceled the show after only 4 episodes.
Hmm.
Um, there was an original pilot with some different actors. Melissa George played Susan in it. This one I would have liked to seen. Maybe the show would have been better with this casting here. Breckin Meyer as Jeff.
Oh, okay.
I could see that working.
Yeah.
Emily Rutherford as and Emily Rutherford as Sally. The rest of the cast was all the same. Um, yeah. Stephen Moffat, the writer and producer of the original coupling, blamed the show's failure on NBC because the executives frequently intervened in creative and production process, which makes sense, because that's what they do. And NBC was so sure that the show would become a success that they strongly advertised it in one instance when the second season of the original coupling was released in the US on DVD. It featured a sticker reading the original UK version of the smash NBC hit.
Wow.
Ironically, the DVD came out the very same week that the US remake was canceled. I was listening recently. Lindsay Price, who played Jane in this version, she was on Pod Meets World, the Boy Meets World podcast, because she had a guest spot on there, and they were talking about her experience on there, and they were in her just experience in acting in general, and she was talking about how there were billboards all over for this show, and like the show was advertised on buses and all this other stuff, and they were still all up right when she found out the show was canceled.
Oh man.
So she's walking around and she sees her face on billboards.
Oh
And
god, that's sad.
yeah,
That's
yeah,
gotta be a bummer.
yeah.
Gotta be a bummer. Now that I think about it, I think I remember watching this when it came out because she looks so familiar from. I mean, I know I've seen her in other things, but I
Yeah,
mean,
she's
like
in a lot of
that.
things. I remember her from Boy Meets World, and she's also in an episode of How I Met Your Mother.
Okay,
She's in a, which is another Friends ripoff. But anyway, so that's
but better.
yeah, that lasted a long time. The
Yeah.
but and had its own uniqueness. Um,
Mhm.
but she was also had a recurring role on Beverly Hills 90210, and she's been in a lot of things. She's still doing things here and there. She was in the movie Club Dread. She she was on All My Children for years. Recently on the TV show Atypical, but she's done guest like almost like every television show that there has been in the last like 3 or 4 decades. She's done a guest appearance on. So
Cool.
yeah. So yeah, you will at all pretty know her, and I had a huge crush on her when I was younger. So anyways, the so here, do you want to hear some reviews of this?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, so and this is of the American version, by the way. So um there is yikes from SHAZZER 30 back in April of 2004. Many people say that the American version of Coupling bombed because they were comparing it to the UK version. In reality, the Yanked version didn't stand a chance. The actors chosen were decent enough, but they just cannot recreate the dysfunction in the same way. I mean, how can you have someone else play Jeff Murdoch or Jane, for that matter? Not to mention the fact that they would stick to the original script word for word at sometimes and then add their own material in other areas, presumably to reach the American audience. So bad, so very, very bad. Buy season 1 and 2 of the British coupling instead, and you'll understand the difference. Um, this one says no, no, no. This is from Gal Weathers, 82, in February of 2005. Just bad. Once you've seen the English version, this comes across as a slap in the face to the creators. Which is, by the way, the creator was involved in this version. The actors are really not up to it. Nothing compares to the English cast. The chemistry just doesn't seem to be right here. And nobody else can really do Jeff the way he's supposed to be. I wasn't able to enjoy the US version. It all just seemed wrong, and I have already stated the chemistry is wrong. and the cast just don't really seem comfortable with what they're doing. Since I love the original version so much, I was expecting this to keep up the same level of quality, but it doesn't even seem close. I'm not at all surprised it was canceled. So yeah, that's another bad review there. Do you want to hear a 9-star review?
Okay, wow, that's very generous.
Yeah, that's the highest review it got. This is 9 out of 10 from Eroda in 2007. She or he reviewed this. Okay, this show was real fun. Just don't be biased. Okay, I read most of the reviews here, and it seems that a large majority of the reviewers are totally against this show. The main reason being the fact that Coupling was a remake of a successful British show. Then I read that some of the episodes were not aired originally in the US. I just wonder if all those people who wrote so many horrible things about the American version of Coupling had actually been able to watch all the episodes, because I did, and I just laughed a lot. I think it was really funny. The actors and their acting were great, as well as the dialogues and situations. Americanized copies are usually bad and or poor, but there are a few exceptions, and I think this sitcom is one of them. I haven't seen the original British yet, so when I found Coupling US by accident, I just watched it without any preconception in my mind, and I really enjoyed it. I suppose the British show must be fun too. Looking forward to it. My advice, don't be biased and give the show a chance. It deserved it. It deserves it, and you won't regret.
Mm.
Yeah.
Mm.
I just think it's weird they haven't seen the British version and they gave the review, but I'm sure after they watch the British version they may change their minds.
Yeah. Or I don't like them referring to it as the British version. Like, no, this is the American version
Yeah.
of the British original.
Yeah.
But,
So any final thoughts here on this show?
uh, I don't know. I mean, I'll probably watch at least like one or two more of the American version just to
If you can
just
find them.
just. Oh yeah, if I could find them exactly. Yeah. I don't know. I thought there was a few on YouTube,
There might
but
be.
maybe. But if not, then I'm not gonna go looking for them.
But yeah, I know I'm gonna continue watching. I've been watching a few of the British version on Freevee, um, which are funny and they keep getting better and better. Also, if you do want to watch that, and I recommend watching them, I would also recommend, maybe just for funsies, checking out the funsies. He's Fonzie's like weird cousin.
he's just yeah. He's not quite as,
That's cool.
but he is fun. 'Cause it's called Funzy. So
He walks around and instead of saying A to everybody, he
he's
goes B. And
yeah, he's kind of like a dork, but he has fun. So he's kind of like basically like like a court's jester type of
yeah,
character.
and probably nobody listening even know who Fonzie is anymore, sadly. But the no,
Yeah,
probably,
yeah,
I don't
exactly.
know.
It's like
Our audience probably does because they're very
maybe, yeah.
intelligent and older. The the but anyways, I recommend watching that. Um, check it out there. If you want to see the American version, email me at mike@cullenpark.com and I will send you a link to the YouTube link. Also, check out all2real2.com. It's where you can find all of our stuff. Make sure you subscribe to the show wherever you're listening to it. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. I'm really hoping to grow the YouTube channel, and you can listen to all the episodes there. A lot of people are listening to it on there. Actually, more people than I think listening to it on our platforms online, as far as I can tell. Who knows? So,
Yeah. Oh, it's interesting.
Yeah. So a lot of people do like to listen there, so you might be actually listening to it there now. But make sure you subscribe if you are listening here, um, wherever you're listening, and do me a favor and be kind to each other. It's the best thing you can do for humanity, is be kind to each other, and tell your friends to subscribe to All Too Real too. That's the best thing you can do for humanity, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Um, any other thoughts here, Matt?
No, I think
Sesame, I mean.
Sesame. Yeah, Sesame is my name. No, I think I'm all tapped out of the thoughts on this brilliant show.
Well, until next time, folks, just remember that we love you, and bye-bye.
Thanks for listening to All Too Real 2 podcast, a Cullen Park production. Produced and edited by Michael E. Cullen II. Music by Matthew Hawes. Subscribe and share the show. Visit us at cullenpark.com.